In there, a little bit about my career. I was the global CTO for Fujitsu for 24 years, and similarly for CSC for 4 years after that, before setting up Selexo. And so I follow some of the notes there that Ian raised, and that was a big challenge and a big decision to sort of step back from leading 18,000 architects and engineers all over the world to branching out and creating my own company. So a lot of similarities there in planning for the future. What I liked about the challenge I set myself was it was the opportunity to bring that experience and my fellow colleagues to help with real situations inside of real organizations that are challenged to make a difference with IT and with products and with their operating models, and to align all of that and keep it aligned. And you'd be surprised that most organizations don't do it very well. And it's always a transactional activity once a year, rather than as an ongoing heartbeat for the daily work that goes on. And so I've come to the conclusion that actually there are three key areas really that we focus on to help organizations get in control, align their need for IT and for change, and align that for a different marketplace, which is now emerged over this pandemic period, where speed and pace and agility is not a 3-year strategy. It's a 3-week or a 3-hour or a 3-minute strategy. And most organizations are struggling to be able to adapt to that style of change, especially when projects and IT projects take some time often to implement. So my 3 words that I'm going to share with you today are simplify, translate, and productize. And I'll just go through each one of those with a little bit of detail. So simplify. Most organizations in general tend to overcomplicate processes and the solutions that they need for an overly complex situation. I would say they need to focus on one thing, one outcome, and question hard everything that surrounds it, and do that one thing well. And then build out from that. And I'll talk about modular planning and bite-size thinking in a few minutes. I would say simplify the existing IT estate and declutter your IT wardrobe, and be ruthless. There are some things in there that were fashionable about 3 years ago. There are some things that don't or no longer fit. And there are some things in there that perhaps had a particular purpose that is no longer part of your lifestyle. And so I would say be ruthless with your existing IT and information estate and declutter it. Take the opportunity while we're in this situation with the lockdowns and the pandemic to really think hard about what is delivering value and what you actually need for the new sort of new normal. The second thing about simplify is really try to think about the solution, the smallest solution you can possibly come up with, and implement that, assuming that the market is going to change and continue to change in a 3-month and a 6-month cycle. And so enabling the business to be responsive to the market by having small solutions rather than 3-year multi-million-pound complicated solutions and partners and projects is definitely changing in most people's organizational thinking. And so I would say simplify as a starting point what it is your organization needs. Get rid of and reduce what's in the wardrobe, and think small, and eat the elephant, as I think Richard called it, one bite at a time, rather than looking at the elephant and avoiding it, and letting it become an issue. I think the second word, which is translate, is probably my role for the last 30 odd years. So I replaced the T in Chief Translation Officer, sorry, Chief Technical Officer to Chief Translation Officer. And I see that as the purpose of that role, because most organizations have a purpose, they have a rhythm, and they have measures of success, otherwise they wouldn't survive. But not all organizations successfully translate that into strategies and plans and activities. The IT strategy, which is usually, it can vary from being overweight to not at all, is a translation of the business strategy. And if that hasn't been done correctly or hasn't thought through the sort of challenges of turning that into projects and programs and timelines, then the results are going to speak for themselves. If it has been translated right, keeping it in sync with the business and keeping it in sync with the daily challenges and changes is quite an onerous task. And so if you've not got a team, an IT team, or a set of leaders that can keep that in sync, then these things do start to separate very quickly, and leads on to other challenges. So I would say with Translate, it's really important to make sure that it's an ongoing translation between the business strategy and the IT strategy, and keep it simple. The last one is productize, and I won't do this justice in the time that we've got left, but perhaps pick it up in the questions. But IT is seen as expensive, time-consuming, slow to change, but essential and a key business risk, and therefore it's in a corner in most organizations where it's probably not really well understood, but nobody actually wants to touch it. The IT estate tends to grow like an onion, with layer by layer over multiple projects and changes, ultimately ending up with a captive cost which you can't change. Because the things that you want to change are in the center of the onion, and there isn't really a business case to go back in and make those changes happen when there isn't some new revenue on the back of it, or there isn't some overriding business risk that's associated with it. And so what you end up with, and what we see a lot, is organizations that have got massive onions, which are still stuck in the corner, don't really get round to getting changed, and effectively become a difficult thing to solve. And so productization really is all about connecting what the company sells with the cost of the IT that it delivers, and therefore if the product isn't selling it out to the audience, then that cost goes away. And so it's about ring fencing cost to the value that it generates in terms of revenue coming in through the business.